Greetings, everybody. My name's Troy Lamel Stovall. I'm the Chief Executive Officer and Executive Director for TEDCO. I couldn't be more happy today to have as our guest to talk today, Mary Beth Tung, who leads Maryland's Energy Administration. And I gotta do a little bit of a time capture here because most of you know we tape these and they get released a few weeks later. And Tammy and Cassie do a great job of getting them out. But I'm letting you know we're taping this in the same week that we had the Continental Pipeline Challenge, and Mary Beth may talk about that during the time. So I want people to understand that timing when you hear some of the comments that she may make, but I think it was a great time, and I'm actually happy she's here because when we talked earlier in the week, there was a small probability that she wasn't gonna make it because of the pipeline situation. So we're glad it's all gotten resolved and people can stop panicking about buying gas and can get back to normal. Mary Beth, again, thank you for being with TEDCO Talks today.
Thank you so much, Troy, for having me. And yeah, even yesterday, I wasn't sure if we'd be able to pull this off or not, but hopefully by the time everybody sees this, they'll have a tank full of gas and be traveling wherever they want to travel, and everything will be resolved. So.
Gotcha. So Mary Beth is we're going to talk a lot about her, but she's a huge supporter of TEDCO. She sits on one of our boards associated with TEDCO. I'm sure we'll get to that. But Mary Beth, I think I'd like to start this conversation. You are just academically a very accomplished and professionally very accomplished person. And you've got a JD and a PhD. You got all the D's behind your name. But I think, people need to hear your story, right? People need to understand that journey that you took and the challenge. A woman with that type of academic pedigree and the professional pursuits. You've been a lawyer, you've been in state government, you've led some organizations. I think there's a woman out there who's seeing you and they're saying, "Wow, how do I? How do I?" Right? Help somebody see that. How do they?
It's interesting you bring up. Being a woman and having a professional background. Many women do not go through your traditional route to get to wherever they want to go. They have families they're raising, they're following what their husbands are doing, or they wind up in roles that might not be traditionally female roles. And I've pretty much had a whole career of that. When I first came into science, I got my biomedical sciences degree, my PhD in biomedical sciences. And we had a fair number of women in our class, but in my undergrad, not so much. It was mostly men. I remember sitting outside my calculus class, and every single person that came out of that class was male, and I was walking in, So it was, I've been in male-dominated fields my whole life. And so many women don't go through your regular, you get your PhD, you do a postdoc, you do your science, and that's the route I thought I was going to go. Raise your hand, everybody who thought they were going to be where, in high school where they are now, and you're not going to get many hands go up. Right. But especially for women, many times we go through a kind of a non-traditional type route to get to where we're going, where we're at now. So I started out in the biomedical field. I did everything you're supposed to do. I did a postdoc at Yale, was working in immunology and virology, and did a postdoc at University of Rochester, and then the bottom fell out of the grants. There was a really tough funding period. My husband and I were both working at the same place, so we wound up at the patent office, believe it or not. But actually, there's a lot of science that goes on in the patent office.
There's a lot of science at the patent office.
A lot of science. So I worked in the virology and mainly immunology field. They're called art units, but work areas at the patent office. And, that's kind of where my interest in law school came in. So I went ahead and I became a patent agent, which you can do without being an attorney. So I became a patent agent, and it is a bar exam you have to go through and whatnot. And I remember dancing in my driveway when I got it. And then there was a lot of businesses. I was working with a lot of businesses. I wanted to be able to help them with their contracts and that kind of thing. So I went to law school, got my law degree. I was working where I met some of the TEDCO folks. I was working with the Howard County Tech Council. Yep. I was the chair there for a while. I was on the council for quite some time. And that was leading up to my job that I have now. I was an attorney. Then I became a patent attorney instead of a patent agent, and helped a lot of clients, particularly in the energy sector. And when Governor Hogan was elected, I was asked to go to the Department of the Environment, where I spent a year as deputy secretary there, and then became director of the Maryland Energy Administration. But the one thing that I always tell folks that are beginning their careers is sometimes an opportunity comes up and it's not exactly what you expected, but look into it and see if there's an interest there and go for it. Don't turn opportunities down because it doesn't fit in your box that you expected.
So as I hear your career, and I know, we could probably spend the whole time talking just about that, but one of the things I take away from is Pathless Travel. I'm thinking of that book and that phrase of path less traveled, and sometimes it doesn't even look like a path, it looks like just like a dirt road initially, like you just said, right? It's
full
not
of weeds.
path, full of weeds, exactly. and so how did you see it? I mean, how did you see that full of weeds trail become a path for you?
You take the path, and sometimes the path leads where in areas you're not expecting. And I just learned to bone up on things quickly. You get in a situation, you're sitting there going, why am I here? All these people are around me. They know all this stuff. I don't. I learned very soon in my career that, you just do your homework and get up to speed and ask people and learn from your coworkers. And I've had very few people not willing to help me. Almost everybody is willing to help. So working with folks that you're going to be working with and learning from them, the first time you go into something, say, I know everything, and they don't know anything. Mm-hmm. I mean, first of all, that's not true. And secondly, you're not going anywhere. Because most of the time when you walk into a new situation, everyone around you knows a whole lot more than you do about that situation. So you just learn, you become a lifelong learner.
And you said something else in that too, not just a lifelong learner, but you have those individuals you can lean on for guidance, for support. Mm-hmm. And you said, you're in a male dominant, so that might be that you may not be able to have someone that can relate to you as a woman, but mm-hmm. you have to find someone who can relate to you as a human being.
Absolutely. I've had so many people as my mentors. Had a lot of Chinese. My last name's Chinese, so I've had a lot of Chinese folks, some from Taiwan, some from mainland China as mentors. I've had men, I've had women. There's always someone there who are willing to take you under their wing and help you out. And I try to pay back the same way. I try to help the younger folks that are coming along, empower them to bring new ideas to the table, give them credit where credit's due, and then help guide them where their career path is taking them. So it's a two-way street.
It is a two-way street, and I love that. You pay it forward. Someone has paid you. I like to say, Mary Beth, is someone is poured into you, so you're pouring in. You got to pour into others because someone has poured into you.
Absolutely.
You got to keep pouring. So let's talk about the Energy Administration and where we are right now, sitting here on May 14th, the challenge you've got. But let folks know what the Energy Administration does. And frankly, it's linked to TEDCO and this technology, because I think people may not know the linkage that you have personally, but also this as an agency, the linkage to TEDCO.
I think, thank you for that question. And a lot of folks don't know what the MEA is, the Maryland Energy Administration. Some folks don't even know we're part of Maryland. I do work for the governor. As I said earlier, I was appointed by the governor. I do work for the governor. We are a separate unit of state government, and much like a department would be. And, really, it's why are we here? What are we doing? Why did the legislature decide that Maryland Energy Administration was a good idea? We are the state of Maryland's energy office, which means we advise the governor. We also advise the General Assembly on all energy matters. Plus, we promote affordable, reliable, and cleaner energy in and for the state of Maryland. The why? We are a resource for innovation in the energy sector in Maryland, and this is the tie-in really to TEDCO. We're small, we're nimble, we do have statutes we follow, of course, but within what the General Assembly has given us, they understand that we can have that flexibility to allow innovation. So as the industry is forced to reinvent itself during a time of unimaginable changes in really response to dwindling resources, climate change mitigation and adaptation, and new technologies, we hope to be the focus of change in Maryland. So as you can imagine, we have a dynamic team of smart energy professionals that I still learn a lot from. And in addition to our energy policy work that we do, MEA also offers programs that support clean and reliable energy for residents, businesses, communities, and others. And our policy and program teams work very hard together, hand in hand, to support and expand all sectors of the state economy, from helping businesses and communities realize cost-effective clean energy solutions to supporting green energy job training. It's one that people aren't aware that we do. For entrepreneurs, we say contact us. We offer a wide variety of grants that create significant energy savings, which can be reinvested into their businesses. We've had companies actually add shifts on because of the energy savings that they've had. So it means dollar bills. So
there you go. So talk about some of those where Maryland, where you see the potential for Maryland to kind of be a leader in these clean energy spaces, that you see opportunities for, and obviously opportunities for investment for TEDCO.
Yeah, TEDCO, as you mentioned, as a director of MEA, I am a member of one of TEDCO's boards, the Maryland Innovation Initiative Board. This board helps move university-developed technologies to commercialization. While I'd like to see more energy-related projects funded through the MII, I've enjoyed the biotech end of it. I get to go back to my biotech roots a little bit there. And the cyber and consumer products on IT projects with which the MII works and funds. I've been on the board long enough to see projects enter its phase one, where they're just getting their boards together and figuring out their market, all the way till they have products on the market. And I really love the entrepreneurial community. They keep you fresh and on your toes, as you know. While I serve on one of the TEDCO's boards, I do think that fostering additional partnerships with TEDCO on the program level is actually an opportunity for MEA to move forward. It's important that we understand the needs of emerging and existing technology businesses. The more we understand the needs of these organizations, the more we can collaborate on policy and program initiatives that can help spur investment to drive the clean energy economy. And again, as I said, I'd like to bring more energy companies into the mix. One area we can really collaborate, I think, is energy resiliency. Traditionally, resiliency is often perceived as a matter of critical infrastructure. Often overlooked is the importance of energy resiliency to businesses, continuity, and risk. We have several programs, including our Resilient Maryland program, that can help businesses assess their risk, and that's costly, to do that. And invest in technology that can reduce this risk. There is a lot of innovation that's still needed out there, and now more than ever, really, in the energy sector and in resiliency in general. We're really taking baby steps here, and we need to do more. I think the pipeline issue is one example of some resiliency that's needed for businesses that have relied on traditional energy sources. We need to be leaner, cleaner, and greener, and much smarter. And how we intend to build resiliency into our power systems.
I love it. I love it. And so we're looking forward to just full disclosure to the folks that are listening. So I sit on the Maryland Clean Energy Council Advisory. Well, you were supposed to speak this past week, but you had your little pipeline issue.
Yes, that's right. You're on that. Yes.
You had your little pipeline issue, and I've been fairly vocal that I do believe that Maryland can be a leader in this space. I think we have definitely the academic resources. We have the innovation ecosystem. I think we just got to spur it in a way, and like what you just talked about, and putting some of those pieces together and building that ecosystem. Just like we've got great spike in cyber, and I actually think there's a great intersection between cyber and clean energy, and some of the bio life sciences and clean energy. So those intersections, I think, are also important that we can take advantage of in Maryland that other states do not have.
I agree, and we have the federal government as well.
Absolutely.
But the cyber incident recently with the pipeline kind of absolutely shows what you're talking about, is that there is definitely an intersection there. And I know it's something on the tops of the minds of everyone running these systems. And I'm glad I'm not a Colonial Pipeline employee, because I know they've had a rough week.
They've had a very rough week. Well,
yeah.
But on that point, the president has announced, he's used this, in my opinion, talk about this infrastructure, the need to build a more resilient infrastructure, the need to transition to think some of this transition. Do you see those opportunities of the federal government coming in and also helping us to spur some of these clean energy type projects?
We do work very closely with our federal partners. We're learning new faces and names with the new administration coming in. We're very, very lucky that a former Maryland Energy Administration employee is now an assistant secretary of the, I believe she's in the energy efficiency and renewable energy branch of DOE. So when the pipeline incident first started, the emergency person I used to work with was no longer there. So I shot out a quick text to her. It's like, hey, who's the new person? And within, a minute or 2 minutes, I had the name. So we're very fortunate that we have that inside contact that we can start working with them. We also work very closely through the National Association of State Energy Officers, or NASIO. They have a lot of contacts also within DOE and various congressional offices and whatnot. So we're able to work very closely with our federal partners, both with them and through them, and directly with our partners at DOE. So we're hoping with any continued aid to the states, that we're hoping this new round may have some money that we can put towards some of the energy initiatives that we'd like to do. So we're hoping, we're keeping our fingers crossed. We're hearing rumors like everyone else is, and of course working with the congressional delegation on that as well.
Gotcha. Well, I was going to say the big elephant in the room, the big elephant for you right now is this pipeline, but the other big elephant is this thing called COVID.
Yep.
And so I kind of asked two parts to this question. It's the first is just Mary Beth, to get, being director, just how you've navigated this personally, how you've personally navigated these last, over a year now in this kind of new environment. And has there been something fun that you've picked up, or a TV show that you picked up that, that you want to talk about, or something you picked up that you think will carry you beyond, we get our post-COVID, and actually we just found out we can now go without masks if you're vaccinated, kind of a post-COVID world that we hopefully are entering now.
Yeah, as far as personally, I've actually been working more hours. I think that I know I've been working more hours than I normally would in the pre-COVID world. So I don't know that I've picked up like any new hobbies or anything. I have been able to keep up a little bit more. I like to garden, so I've gotten some new plants planted, and I'm working on some flower beds, and so I've gotten to do some of that I wouldn't have been able to do before. I've set up some bird feeders. I don't have time for bird feeders, so I'm traveling back and forth and stuff. So there are some things that we've been able to do within our family and whatnot. But as far as the organization goes, it's really been quite a teamwork effort in MEA. And our chief of staff, he's an awesome chief of staff. His name is Chris Rice. He'll kill me for bringing his name up, but I do it anyway. Rank has its privileges, But exactly. Chris often reminds us, let's look for the silver linings. There's got to be a silver lining in here. It's like the kid going through a pile of donkey droppings, and there's got to be a donkey in here somewhere, right? Or there's a puppy in here, or whatever. It's looking for that, silver lining. And the MEA team, when we went virtual, immediately they already had a lot of things that they were working on, and we were able to advance that through the state system, because anything we do, we have to make sure we have approval for the money and so forth, and get our state partners helping us, particularly the IT department. And we were able to do a lot of the things we already had in process and planned to do, like electronic filing, electronic routing of applications, and that kind of thing. So we've really, some of our divisions were able to go virtual right away, just because they were out in the field so much. They were already working virtually to some extent. So we've had some powerful internal changes that we've made to improve our productivity. And our public user, our public user interface with us. Our organization pretty quickly learned we could do 100% virtual. We have a few folks going in once a week to do mail, that kind of thing.
Yep.
We're able to process grants 55% faster. And the staff is now
65% faster? You said 65%?
You heard that right. Yeah. It's inspired us to look into even more efficiencies. And anybody, I'm a big believer in lean. I'm sure you're familiar with lean. And I wanted to bring lean to MEA, but I didn't need to because they were already doing it. And lean is folks who are actually doing the work sits there, they sit together and they figure out where the inefficiencies are, the handoffs that don't need to happen, the multiple signatures and all that. Well, our folks were doing that. So now that we had to do everything virtually, they all got together and we're able to get rid of those pain points. We've expanded the ability for applicants to apply online. We've purchased some really basic IT equipment that would help us do, really basic stuff that we could do without before, but now we've got it. We're going to continue using it, We're also very flexible on, employee childcare because the kids were all home. Sometimes we're going to be getting emails at midnight, I'm like, oh, these poor folks aren't sleeping at all. But we were much more flexible. And as we go back to a more regular schedule, that flexibility, A, won't be as necessary, but B, we have certain hours we have to be in the office. But we've been able to stay flexible and still get all our work done. So I'm hoping we can build some of that flexibility in.
That's an amazing stat. I mean, it sounds like COVID has helped you be more efficient and find a way. But your beginning of this was what I'm struggling with. Many folks are struggling with is how do you turn it off? I'm probably like you. I'm here in my home office. I'm just a few feet from my living room, from my kitchen. My bedroom's upstairs, and the computer is always available. We don't have that commute time. We don't have that off and on time. And so one of the things we're asking at TEDCO is, one, we need to find a way to give people that time back. They shouldn't have to work like that. That's one.
Absolutely.
But, what's the nature of work in a post-COVID? I think we have to ask ourselves as managers, as leaders, what does work really look like in the post-COVID? Your agency is different than mine, but we didn't have to be in the office 5 days a week. I don't think we're going to be in the office 5 days a week going forward. So, but how do you create a sense of community amongst the workers, particularly to your point across unit, while still allowing people that flexibility to work where they need to work?
Obviously, we've got folks we report to who set the rules for state employees. So we still have that. One thing that I've tried to be very careful, and I know Chris, our chief of staff, has also been very careful to watch what was going on. And I know our managers were all doing that as well, is making sure that people are getting that life work balance. Because as you said, the computer's always there. It's on your dining room table or wherever it is. And on the senior management level, on Friday, we have a kind of a recap at the end of the week. And it's like, this is recap, go start your weekend. I think a lot of the supervisors are doing that with their teams as well. And also keeping tabs on everybody. It's so hard when you're disseminated. Like, is somebody getting depressed? Is somebody struggling? Is somebody sick? Is somebody, we've had a lot of family stuff going on amongst our team. Some folks have lost parents or brothers or sisters, and, some folks have gotten married. Some folks have had babies. We've had all the life stuff is still going on. So post-COVID, how do we keep those silver lining parts of what has happened and then move forward with more of a hybrid work, remote kind of situation.
I hear you. So I look forward to hearing how you play it out, and obviously we'll share with you what we do. One last thing I want to explore with you, and kind of goes back to the beginning. Being a woman in a science. I'm an engineer, computer scientist by training. So being the only woman, I've had the same, being the only Black person in the room, and so as I joined the Energy Council advisory, one of the things we talked about is, as we think about all these things to do with energy, and think about how do we make sure that we're including those who have been excluded historically. And so talk a little bit to our audience about how you're thinking about making sure that what we do doesn't leave anyone behind, but also doesn't put the big coal plant right next to the people of color community.
So I think there's two parts to that question. One is what we're doing within our organization for inclusivity. And the other, of course, is in the community. What are we doing for inclusivity? And we have, there was one guy that I approached him, and I felt kind of embarrassed doing it, but there's an organization, and you're probably familiar with the Blacks in Energy.
Mm-hmm.
And I approached him. He's an African American program manager on our team. Would you like to be involved in this? And I kind of felt embarrassed doing that, because it's like, well, I'm going to pick out at that point, he was the only Black program manager we had. And he jumped at the chance, and it's been an amazing partnership with our agency and all those contacts that he's been able to make. And so we've reached out at HBCU job fairs and that kind of thing, trying to because when I was back in the technology days, the Howard Tech Council days, trying to get young people in general interested in STEM is very hard. The classes aren't easy, and quite frankly, sometimes they're made to be boring. They're not boring classes, but they're taught that way. But getting minority students involved and interested is even harder, and women as well. Yep. So we've been trying to work through that somewhat, trying to get out there, letting people know that energy is cool. It's a great job to have. And he has made the same comment where a lot of times he's the only Black person in the entire room. Energy does not attract African Americans in large numbers. And I've noticed it myself. I walked in like, I've never seen so many white people. It's a whole room full of white people, right? So it's obviously something we need to work on. So we've always encouraged a good level of open dialogue for staff with each other, managers, and with me directly. But obviously, as I said, it's an area we all need to expand on. We have quite a few African American employees now in our agency at all levels. Our policy team, we've got several PhDs who are African Americans on our policy team. We actually have 3 PhDs out of 5 on our policy team, and the other 2 are attorneys. So we've got a really good policy team. Some of I think almost our entire finance team, including our accounts, everybody is African American. So, and we're working on the program end of it as well. So we're working internally, but as far as communities go, it's really that is something we've been trying to do this for years before it became popular. We have a low and moderate income program. We've been working on equity issues for placement of power plants, not so much the big smoke belching ones, but trying to get solar. We've got the first in the country really well organized community solar program. So folks that might not have the rooftops or the money to invest in solar can still benefit from it. So it's something that we've been trying to work on all along. But now that it's a little bit, it's in the front of everyone's minds as something we need to do.
Yep.
I'm hoping that we're going to be able to do a whole lot more in that arena than we were even able to do in the past.
My thing on energy, there was a time when if you were in energy conservation, you were called a tree hugger. You were a tree hugger. Who you were crazy. But now that it's become an imperative, with companies can see how they can actually make money. They can create different market conditions. There is an embracing of that. And same thing's happening with diversity, equity, inclusion, where that was kind of somebody's job in HR. It's now become, a senior level position at many places, because again, they see the economics attached to that. You have the same observation?
Yes, I do. And honestly, I like to hear everyone's opinions and where they're coming from. We have 6 or 7 countries represented in MEA. Wow. And having folks from all over the world come in, and one gentleman was involved in, as far as his education, of establishing solar in African countries which have no other means in those small rural communities of getting power. Yep. I mean, solar's perfect, in a country that gets a lot of sun, So there's backgrounds we have in our agency that it's just so very, very helpful. And you're right, to get that difference of opinion. And I want the best person for the job. I don't care. And I can't imagine anybody would care the color of someone's skin, because I want the best people. Man, I've got quite a team. Quite a team.
Well, sound like you really do. You sound like you do. Well, look, Mary Beth, I have truly enjoyed. We could have kept on talking. You have an amazing career. an amazing. I can't tell you how much I appreciate your support of TEDCO and the work that you do with MII. Continue to be who you are. Continue to fight the good fight, and I really do appreciate what you do and who you are, and more importantly, who you are.
Thank you, Troy. It's been a pleasure talking to you today, and we have not been able to meet in person because of COVID. So I really look forward to meeting you in person and working with you as we go forward. So thank you very much for having me.
No, thank you. I tell people I actually I'm not an avatar. I actually am a human being. So I'm coming out of my avatar state and becoming a 3D person state. So that's what I'm doing.
I like that. I'll have to remember that.
Again, thank you again, Mary Beth. To our listeners, again, continue. I can't express to you how much I want to thank you all for the comments and the look and listening to TEDCO Talks. We really appreciate it. Tammy and Cassie, thank you for the work you do in making this all happen. So this is again Troy Lamel Stovall with TEDCO Talks. See you next time. Thanks a lot.